Hi, John Solari with the Method Actor Speaks. And today we have a very special guest who actually has this book carrying with it, which I've never seen before in my life. And I want you to introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, my name is Mary-Mackey, and I've been an actress for about 30 years and a teacher, teaching acting, both commercial and film, for about 15 years.
Now, difference between commercial, before we get into all that, can I ask you, why did you become an actor?
That's a good question. I think I've always loved it. I mean, when I was a kid, like so many stories, we are acting plays out as a kid with our neighborhood friends. And I first started singing and dancing at a young age. I loved singing, and then did pageants and became Miss Northern California, and became a runway model first, actually, and was taking acting classes to help me on stage. This is in the 80s, where there was so much glamour, the clothes were beautiful, and I had so much fun. And then it just gradually went full time into acting and studying it, and you know, I fell in love with. I think it's just so interesting how the human condition works, and I think that's what's always ignited my interest in myself and in other people, and then helping my students, you know, kind of discover that within themselves.
I was thinking that when you became you was a runway model, then you became an actor, then you were able to eat.
Then I was able to eat again. I know sometimes I'll say that. It's like, now I get to eat. Being a runway model, you had to be underweight and you couldn't eat. And now when you're an actor, you can eat.
Who said there's a starving actor, right?
Yeah, that was literally a starving model.
One of the most famous movies you've been in, and we have to talk about it, and I'm really happy. It's just a coincidence that you said you were going to come on the show and then we lost Robert Williams.
Yeah.
And you and Mrs. Doubtfire. Which must have been a great experience.
Oh, I tell you. I was a featured extra in it. It was my very first film, kind of going from modeling into acting. And I didn't know much about the film the first day. We were at Bridges Restaurant, which I went and visited when I was up north, and laid some flowers underneath the Mrs. Doubtfire poster. So Bridges Restaurant is actually in Danville area in Northern California, and we were there for 2 weeks filming, and just being around the whole cast. And the first day I was dressed up in evening wear, and Mrs. Doubtfire came up, and you know, I didn't know much about the story then, you know, and she comes up to me and, oh dearie, and she found a spot right on my sleeve, and so I'm sorry, and I'm scraping it off, but just in character and all the way through, as everybody has witnessed, you know, on camera, off camera, he never stopped. He was very kind with everybody, and it was a great experience. Yeah.
And it must have gone a long way now for you. You know, I have a friend, Carmine Carici, who was the original Sonny in The Godfather. Before they gave it, you know, to what's his name? Went blank. But it made him famous for not getting a role.
Wow, that's great. That's funny. Wow.
Really did. It became.
Yeah.
He became known as the guy
who didn't
get it.
Whatever works, right?
And it really worked. And I'm thinking, has that helped you get roles since? I know you just did a film, right? You just worked on a film?
Yeah, I was up north doing a film, and with Loretta Devine, and first time working with her, and she was wonderful, wonderful actress. And you know, I think every little bit helps, and I think for the working hour, the working actor, we can get discouraged really easy, and I think it's just every little bit that we do, you know, it's putting one step in front of right in front of the other, and just never giving up, you know, and one thing leads to the other, and it may not be the thing we think it's going to be, but it's just, you know, that the networking, and I think I really do feel that we have to love it so much because of the industry and how much we have to give, both of ourselves and financially, you know, but it comes back. It comes back, you know.
Well, it is, and today it's even, you know, with the merger and everything now, it just, you did background work, and a lot of the background, I mean, they thought they were going to get something by the merger. But they did get something. They got more people. So less work for them.
Oh, yeah.
And California is really, I think there was only one film this year.
I know. I really hope that passes, you know, so that we have more tax.
Even if it passes, it's going to take a while.
Yeah.
You know, there's television shows. Yesterday, outside the window here, they were shooting CSI.
Oh yeah, thank goodness, shoot here.
Yeah, they shoot. I see a lot of things over here on Magnolia Boulevard being shot. But I want to know, how did you make the transfer, and what were you doing when you were doing background into, you know, becoming a principal?
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Yeah, and that's a great question, because in San Francisco, it's really a commercial town. So when I was modeling, I did a lot of commercials for Macy's at the time when they were there, and so I was going into acting. There was a lot of extra work and stand-in there, and I tell my students that I think it's just a great experience to do that for a while, to get a good idea of what goes on in a set, and how to behave on a set and what's expected of you. And then I think there was just that time, and I think each actor knows it inside when you're ready to let go of it and just focus, you know, on your acting. I'd rather be in class than doing extra work. I would rather be doing an independent film for $100 a day than be an extra. There just comes a time where you realize, not that there's anything wrong with that if someone wants that for a career. It can be very exciting. But as an actor, you know, you realize you're not really doing too much acting. I just think it's more informative to get that experience, and then you're ready to let go of it and focus on yourself and what you can bring to a role, no matter how small or big, to be a part of a production, but as an actor, as a principal actor, supporting or lead. So
it's interesting.
Yeah.
And you teach, and when I teach, we talk about background. You could always tell, 99% of the time, you could tell people who are background in the film what they're doing, because they do nothing. And one of the exercises I used to have my students do, I used to tell them, go sit in the chair. I wouldn't tell them why or anything. And they wouldn't know how to sit in the chair.
And just be. Yeah.
Or get up and walk. They wouldn't. There's a certain way they would get up and walk, and you knew they had no idea what they were doing or why they were doing it.
Right. Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
And I hope you, working background, you did that. And a lot of that, if you won't like to, we could talk a little bit about Uda there, who does great exercises in this book.
Yeah.
And when you teach now, where do you teach? And if you have a website or anything, please give it.
Yeah. I taught for many years at Full Circle Productions in San Francisco, and it was like ACT is geared more for stage, and Full Circle at the time for about 15 years was for film and television. And I loved it. The owners decided, you know, when work started to dwindle in San Francisco, they decided to close the school and move to New York. And John Howard Swain is teaching in New York, and so I ended up moving here to Los Angeles for the work. I taught acting to kids at a school here in Los Angeles, and then now I'm teaching on my own privately, and now at the Actors Link just down the street. I just dropped off my postcards, and I'm getting ready to do some complimentary classes in September, and then October I'll start my 4-week on-camera.
The Actors Link, I had been in cut it, but where is that, the address or the number?
It's right at the corner of Tahunga and Magnolia, and and
that's in North Hollywood, folks.
Yeah, North Hollywood.
And I guess they could look the name up in the book, or on Facebook or something, or Google
Facebook it. And my website, it's a little long, but it's called Expressions Knowing You, and I created that about 4 years ago because in my training, in my opinion, so much of the acting comes from who you are to begin with. And especially with commercial acting, it can be some of the hardest acting because you have to just be yourself, where a lot of actors, when you interview them, they can't wait to become somebody else, you know. But really the truth of it is finding in the characters, if it's theatrical, how is the character like you? And that's a great way to instantly personalize, especially when you only have 10 minutes with a script. But commercial acting, you know, it really is a talent. And I think a lot of actors say, oh, you know, it's just a look. Well, it's a look, but it's also a look from within, you know, your type and the business side of it. I think a lot of actors lose sight of, and that's what I'm really good at, is helping, bringing them, their personality out and being comfortable with who they are in front of the camera, and also discovering, well, what are my types? Because you can be a really great actor, but if you don't market yourself right, you're going to lose out on a lot of work. And I think I went through that. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And you finally have to look at, okay, well, what are my types? And zero in on those first.
What are your types?
And my particular types, I play the mom a lot commercially. The mom, the wife, the business person. I do a lot of judge. The film, I was the principal of an elementary school, so that kind of authoritative business, but friendly at the same time, is kind of my niche, and kind of the upscale woman.
Very upscale.
Upscale woman who's rich, so I'm trying to manifest her in my life, but it's so much fun.
Well, you have a commercial face. I mean, years ago, there were certain types. And it was always blonde and that big smile.
Oh gosh,
you
that
would have made
went away.
a ton of money.
Yeah.
And they did make a ton of money back then.
Yeah.
Now
yeah.
they did. I mean, the money has just almost disappeared.
Yeah.
I mean, years ago, you could get one commercial and make $100 grand.
I know.
Yeah.
And things have really, really changed.
Especially with your face back then, they would, you know. And it really was. I mean, you make. I did a Kentucky Fried Chicken with George Foreman. With the Susan Tyler, the late Susan Tyler was the casting director, and the money. I mean, the first week I got like $10,000.
Isn't that great? Then you can do your theater and all those other things.
You can live.
And
You
you
can live.
You can breathe.
That's
You
why
can
you
go to
did
the grocery
commercials.
store. You can go to Whole Foods if you want.
Right, and you got your unemployment off that
Yeah.
too. I mean, that one check would qualify you for as an actor. Now they've just taken everything away.
Yeah, we just have to work so much harder for it, and
it shouldn't be that way. I mean, it's. I ran for the union and I didn't get in, but I'm a delegate. I'm running again next year. But I mean, something has to be done. I don't understand how we can just give away everything and get one thing and give two away.
I know.
And we're dealing a lot of the actors. You get your Tom Hanks and this and that, who become producers. And they forget where they come from. They really do.
Yeah, well, we were talking about that. Yeah, they forget where they come from.
And they're giving everything away. And okay, because it just amazes me how they can do that. And this union we have right now, every time the first things out of their mouth is, well, we don't want to strike. How can you go into a negotiate and not be able to strike? Well, I mean, that's like going in, being naked and saying, "Don't rape me." Or something. So, I mean, it's in layman's language, we're bending over without the Vaseline. I mean, that's what this union is becoming. I don't want to get into that, but it's the Guinea in me, the Italian, comes out of me, and I get aggravated when I see the money going down. We're losing so much, and there's so many people out there that want to work, but yet there's so many people out there that want to work in a union.
Right, I know. There's a lot. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I moved here to San Francisco. There is union work there, but it's really become a non-union town. I'd say over half of it is non-union. So actors become FICOR, and I do have friends that have become FICOR, and I understand it it weakens the union, but I understand that actors want to work. So, and that's where I wish the union would. Somehow we need to bring work back. I did a casting director workshop with a lady who does the casting for Hallmark. And I said, how many of them film here? And she said, most of them all shoot in Vancouver and Toronto. And she said, then she's really the union. So we have to have like partial residency to work up there. So the pool is smaller up there. So if we could be locals up there and work, but the thing is you have to be you have to live there at least 6 months out of the year to have some type of residency.
And yet they can work here.
That's exactly what she said.
They can work here. If you look at all your newscasters and this and that, they're all talking about how great Canada is. They come from Canada. And I'm listening to them. If it's so great, why are you here? Because the work is here. We can't work up there,
Right.
but they can work here. It's wrong, and our union should stop that.
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, that's just start it there to bring back the work, because it's competitive enough. Actors are working so hard, and the work just gets smaller, or they're having to put themselves on tape and either hopefully get a direct booking, if not go to Atlanta, Georgia, Louisiana, and all these places. And I know producers want to keep the costs low and bring out maybe the named talent. They'll fly them out.
It's not that they want to keep the cost low, it's more money for them,
Okay.
the producers.
Okay.
That's the only reason why they're doing it. If they weren't worried about money, they'd be shooting here, where they know they have access to everything.
Yeah, I know. I know. And you know, I think about the families too. You know, if your husband or wife has to go for work for 3 months and can only come home twice, you know, keeping the families together and trying to bring more work here to California, you know, that breaks my heart, because I know how hard actors work, and to see so many shoot outside of California, that is so wrong. It's just so wrong. We really need to bring back the productions.
And all the work, even New York now, it's getting so much work. You know, they have it in Cleveland. I know Little Italy, Cleveland does it. It's a great town, but I mean, we do need it here. And then, well, enough of that. Let's get back to acting.
Yeah.
Enough of that. Getting that frustration out.
Fired up, yeah. That's the Irish in me. The Italian in you. Right.
Now, I'd like to ask you about the Uta Hagen book. Why do you carry that?
Well, I carry that, and then there's a couple books I really love, but that first paragraph that I'm sure many actors are aware of, I usually pass this out to my students. May I read it out loud?
Sure, I hope so, please.
Yeah. And this, to me, just...
You need light?
It nails it for us. I think I'm okay, although I'm starting to need reading glasses. Theoretically, the actor ought to be more sound in mind and body than other people.
Why? Let's go over these things. That's what I do my students. Why? Why do you...
Because, and then she goes on, and it's what we do in acting class, man. We pour all of our heart, our rages, our successes, our failures into our character. So it's very cathartic, but that's why. Because we're kind of in, I know don't call acting class therapy, but at the same time, it is. Because this is our piano, we need to learn how to play it. So we got to get all of our stuff out there in order to learn how to access our emotions. We have to learn to access our emotions. So as we're working on that, learning how to play it, nobody else is. The accountant isn't it. Our financial advisor isn't every week for 3 hours and homework during the week accessing his emotions and getting that out. Nobody else is except the actor. So when we're getting it out there, we're going to be of more sound of mind and body than other people because of that. And then she goes on to say, since he learns, or she, to understand the psychological problems of human beings when putting his own passions, his loves, fears, and rages to work, and in the service of the character he plays, he will learn to face himself. And that's the hardest thing. We'd be living in a much healthier world if everybody did this. To face himself, to hide nothing from himself. And to do so, takes an insatiable curiosity about the human condition. That gives me the chills every time I read that. You know, we have, I mean, you know, it's great. It's where else can we do that? Where else can we do that? Now we can't just, throw up everything. We have to then pull it back, and that's where we have a good acting coach, and we get a director on set that goes, okay, tone that down a bit. Can you be this way, a little bit that way? But I mean, that's the hope, is through the acting classes and wonderful people like Uta, that when we are on set, we can be director proof. So he or she gives us a direction, we can make the adjustment right there on set. So yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah, and the exercises I try to give to people, tell them, it's like the telephone exercise. Who are you talking to? How do you react when I'm talking to you for the first time?
Yeah.
Or I'm talking to, or if I'm going to call, I'm talking to you on the phone and you're late.
Yeah, right. How it completely changes. Yeah,
How
in the moment.
all these things, and so as you were talking about the pain and this and that all these, like Marty Landau said, I'm a member of the Actors Studio, and these are a gift for an actor.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
Even Robin Williams, is all the depression, all the demons inside of him was his gift to us, because he was able to transform it into humor and
That's
improv.
right. Yeah, that's right.
And people don't realize that gift that we have. And you're right, it is like therapy. You get it out. If I was the character, how would I do it? And that's the most important thing. Is when you're about acting, is to learn how. If I was this character, how would I do it?
Yeah.
Not how would the character do it?
Right.
Because the casting director already knows
Right.
what that character does, but they don't know who Mary does.
Yeah. And I think that's something that I learned through acting classes, and what I love to teach is, when you're ready, you really have to, what's my take on it? And that takes a lot of bravery, especially at the beginning and when you're in your first audition. You want to hold on to something, but it's really once you learn to let go, and you've got the tools, is to have the confidence to let yourself have that opinion about the character. And like you said, that's what casting wants to see. They may not cast you, that may not be, exactly what they want, but that's your job as an actor, is to put your opinion out there, but that, again, to be able to do that and have that bravery to do that is a lot of exercise in class, and all different types of acting classes and improv, to discover your opinion of that character.
It is. You're right. Maybe you may not get the part, but they will remember you when you do something. Yeah. Arthur Penn was a great director, and I remember working with him, and he told me once, he says, "John, break the rules." And I've always believed that. I tell my students that, always break the rules.
Yeah.
So many people, when you hear them at auditions, when they play angry, they're screaming and this and that. And it's so obvious of what they're doing. My idol is Solari, and you're about the same height. And she says, "Why do we have to scream when we're angry?" The loudest scream I ever heard in my life, I don't know if you ever saw the movie The Pawnbroker, Rod Steiger. It's one of he opens his mouth and nothing comes out. And it was the loudest scream I ever heard. And Charlie Teacup, who was also in the movie, he asked Rod, "What were you thinking?" And he says, "I was thinking about my daughter being raped."
Oh my God.
So, as actors, the audience doesn't know what you're thinking.
Yeah. But it's so painful that nothing can come out. Yeah, that's very powerful. That's very
Nothing,
powerful.
yes.
Yeah.
And Shelley Winters once said that, with Dave, I studied with. She gave me the best advice
Oh God, I love her.
I ever got as an actor. Sit down, John, you're acting.
Yeah. Yes, I know. We never want to be caught acting. It's like the worst thing in the world.
She did
Yes.
the best advice I ever got as an actor.
Yeah.
Sit down, John, you're acting.
You're acting.
Just like that.
Yeah.
Not polite, just sit down, you're acting, John.
Well, one of the things, one of my agents in San Francisco, John Erlinson, he's agent at JE Talent, and years ago, and I still have the paper, I wrote it down, he said, "Mary, fail big. Fail big." And I wrote it down and circled it, and it's that we have to keep trying, and we're gonna screw up, and we're gonna get caught acting, and that's why we go to acting class, to get all that out. But that's how we discover the truth. Right. And that, we cannot discover the truth without failing. And so it's that thing, we're so scared to fail, we're so afraid, you know, to make an ass of ourselves in the casting room, but you know, we have to say fail big, because when we do that, if that's our mantra, in a sense, we're free to try everything.
Right.
And then you give me a direction, I'm free to try that. And then we're not acting and we won't make a mistake.
It's true. In order to be a success, you got to be willing to fail.
Yes. Nobody wants to, but it's the truth.
Truth, yes. You have to be willing to fail.
Yeah.
And that's the name of the game. You go for it, and wherever it takes you, you just keep going.
Yeah.
And as long as you believe it, I'll believe it. I tell my students when I teach.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing.
That's the most important thing.
And it's almost like you say, like Shelley Winters, you know, and I see actors cry and this and that, crying. Crying, you know, it doesn't make you a great actor. Mm-hmm. And she talked about that in it was called, she won the Academy Award, Place in the Sun, Montgomery Clift and Elizabeth Taylor. She was in a rowboat and she was crying. And the director told her, this was George Stevens. He says, don't cry and you'll win an Oscar. You know? And she did.
Wow.
You know, you cry, you make the audience cry. You don't cry, you have to make the audience cry.
That's right. So it's almost being a little bit more disciplined and holding it in a certain place.
That's when you
so we don't get to indulge.
Right.
We have to be in the right place so that, like you said, the audience gets to cry. Yeah. All these things to learn.
It is, and a lot of it's in this book. And when I was asking you why, you know, you said because of that. But what brought you to really understand this book, and how often do you use it?
Well, when I used to teach film acting in San Francisco, I would use it. And I also taught with Billy Shepard at San Jose Repertory Theater. But I also teach a lot of commercials, so I don't always use it. But that quote, I think, can apply to all acting. You know, it's so I don't always use it.
Well, when you teach commercial acting, what is the difference? That's because a lot of people would like to know that.
Yeah. There's a lot of similarities. The difference, because when I would teach film acting, it was very cathartic and, you know, deep. It's deep, everybody's sharing. But then when I would teach the commercial class, afterwards and during, everybody's on a high. We're happy. Not fake happy, but it's, you know, it's problem solution scenarios. So like Michael Shurtleff's book, Audition, I use a lot of that because he has his line-to-line objectives, and there is a lot of technique to commercial acting, especially when you start doing medical words. You know, most often the dialogue that we use, nobody talks that way. So, but we have to make it sound truthful and conversational with meaning and all that together. So there still is a lot of technique in commercial acting, but you're in a happy place. You're always in that. There might be a problem solution. You may have had a headache and this, you know, Excedrin's gonna, you know, take it away, but you're not reliving the pain as you maybe would do in a scene. It's a distant memory. You're not going too deep, you know, unless it's a PSA. For the most part, you're solving people's problems and you're in a happy place.
You sure you're not?
Like
do you have any Italian in you?
Yeah. Oh, with my hands, I know I've been told that. I do.
It's great. It's great. And I know I was watching your hands, and I'm thinking that, and there was something I wanted to say about it, but it just went too many bats to the head when I was a kid. Oh, I know what it was. It's just before we end here and come back, and commercials you're talking about. Every time I hear that commercial when they come out with no mozzarella, I cringe because it's not pronounced that way.
Oh.
It's pronounced mozzarella.
Oh, you got to call that director.
No, I mean they all commercials. I mean they do it that way. It's the way it's spelled. Yeah. And the same thing with regatta. It's regatta. You know what I mean? They have to learn. I mean, they don't realize how many Italians they turn off.
That's funny.
It really is. They say, funny. You know, mozzarella. It's not Jewish cheese. It's Italian.
That's funny.
It's called mozzarella.
Yeah.
And if you ask any Italian, and they go, I even told a few actors, they look at you like you're crazy. You know, that I heard them do the commercial.
Yeah.
So I wish they would clear that up and, you know, at least If I was
You
on the
gotta clear it
set,
up.
somebody would say to me, I wouldn't say it. They would tell me, you're gonna get fired. I get fired.
Yeah,
I mean,
maybe they
I'm-
want them to say what most people expected, even though it's wrong.